Good evening and welcome to the Sleeping Zoo. Facts to fall asleep to. We direct our focus now to an entirely unique order of mammals, the Cingulata, creatures defined by their literal biological armor, the armadillos, whose name in Spanish translates simply to little armored ones. These animals, evolutionary veterans dating back to the Miocene, are relics of the South American supercontinent, belonging to the superorder Cynathra alongside sloths and anteaters. To understand this family is to appreciate a spectrum of specialization, from the familiar yard dweller to the near-mythical subterranean ghost. We will undertake a comparative study of 4 key species: the expansive 9-banded Armadillo dasypus novincinctus, the iconic Brazilian 3-banded Armadillo Tolipuits tricinctus, the elusive and tiny pink fairy Armadillo Omnivorous truncatus, and the colossal giant Armadillo Priodontis maximus, beginning with the intricate details of their disparate physiology. The defining characteristic of all armadillos is the carapace, a dermal ossification of bone plates covered in non-overlapping, keratinized scales, making them the only mammals to possess such a rigid body shield. However, the precise architecture of this armor varies dramatically across our 4 focal species, reflecting their divergent survival strategies. We begin with the 9-banded Armadillo dasypus novincinctus, the most widely distributed and familiar species, which stands as the structural template for its family. Its armor is characterized by 3 main sections: a fixed anterior shield covering the shoulders, a fixed posterior shield covering the hips, and, critically, a series of flexible, overlapping bony bands in the midsection, typically 9, though the number can vary from 7 to 11, making the species name a slight misnomer. These bands are separated by folds of skin, lending the animal its exceptional flexibility, allowing it to easily arch its back for digging, or, infamously, to spring vertically when startled. The carapace itself is relatively thin and leathery compared to its relatives, reflecting a defense strategy reliant on speed, burrowing, and flight, rather than static confrontation. Its overall size is moderate, averaging about 55 to 75 centimeters in length, including the tail, and weighing between 2 and 7 kilograms, a medium build that supports its status as a generalist. In sharp contrast, the 3-banded Armadillo Tolipuits tricinctus and maticus exhibits a profound physiological adaptation centered on pure static defense. While the 9-banded species cannot curl into a ball due to its numerous loosely fitting scutes, the 3-banded armadillo possesses a highly convex, domed carapace with relatively fewer, thicker, and more robust bony scutes, typically concentrated into only 3 clearly defined, flexible bands across the back. Its unique musculature and the shape of its anterior and posterior shields allow it to perfectly articulate and interlock these shields, tucking in its head and its relatively softer legs and tail. The result is a nearly impenetrable, perfectly sealed sphere of bone and keratin. This ability to roll completely into a ball, a defensive strategy shared only with the African pangolins among mammals, is a biological marvel that requires heavy, strong armor and specialized hinges, a physiological trade-off that makes it a less efficient burrower than the other species. Next, we encounter the spectral pink fairy armadillo, Omnivorous truncatus, a creature whose physiology borders on the surreal. It is the smallest and most specialized of all armadillos, rarely exceeding 15 centimeters in length and weighing less than 120 grams. Its armor is thin, delicate, and almost parchment-like, pale pink or rose-colored due to the underlying blood vessels showing through the thin, nearly transparent bony plates. Critically, its carapace is attached to the rest of its body by only a thin, fragile dorsal membrane. This armor is not designed for protection from predators above, but rather for navigating its subterranean world, minimizing friction as it literally swims through sand. The most distinctive physiological feature is the massive pelvic shield, a blunt, vertical plate of bone covering the rear end, which is used to plug the entrance of its burrow once inside, cementing the animal's specialization as a subterranean dweller whose armor is a tool for engineering its environment. Finally, at the opposite end of the size spectrum, stands the majestic giant armadillo, Priodontes maximus. This species is the largest extant armadillo, reaching lengths of up to 15 meters and weights exceeding 50 kilograms, a truly massive armored presence. Its carapace is dark brown and heavy, covered in thick, dark scutes, but its defining physiological feature lies not in its shell, but in its claws. The giant armadillo possesses extraordinary, sickle-shaped foreclaws, particularly the enlarged third digit, which can measure over 20 centimeters in length. These immense claws are the single most powerful digging tools in the Sinothra order, necessary for tearing apart concrete-hard termite mounds and excavating the massive burrows that define its life. Its teeth are also distinctive, possessing up to 100 small, peg-like molars, the highest number among non-station mammals, reflecting its specialized insectivorous diet. These physiological differences are not random, but directly dictate the complex and diverse behavior displayed across the species, particularly in their foraging and defensive strategies. The armadillo family represents a master class in dealing with threats, whether they come from above or below the surface. The 9-banded armadillo is fundamentally a generalist fossorial opportunist. Its behavior is characterized by rapid, often clumsy movement above ground, punctuated by frequent, shallow digging to find the insects and invertebrates that make up its broad diet. When foraging, it uses its powerful sense of smell to locate prey up to 20 centimeters beneath the soil, often appearing to wander erratically with its nose to the ground. When threatened, its primary defense is flight and burrowing. If cornered, it jumps straight up to startle a predator, a movement that often results in its death on roads as it springs into the undercarriage of passing vehicles. An unfortunate behavioral anomaly that makes it the most common roadkill in its North American range. The 3-banded armadillo, conversely, exhibits the most specialized, least fossorial behavior. Because its armor is designed for the complex mechanism of rolling, it is a poor and reluctant digger, instead preferring to shelter in dense vegetation or underbrush. When confronted, its behavior is immediate and singular. It rolls itself into its perfectly sealed, impregnable ball. This is a passive defense strategy, where the animal relies on the strength and shape of its carapace to deter predators like jaguars, which cannot gain a purchase on the smooth, hard sphere. This unique behavior has led to it being the only armadillo species that does not need a pre-existing burrow for immediate safety, allowing it to inhabit more open, dry grasslands where deep burrows are hard to maintain. The pink fairy armadillo is defined by its sand-swimming behavior. This is perhaps the most specialized form of fossorial movement in the order. It rarely appears above ground, and its tiny eyes are almost vestigial, as it navigates primarily by touch and acute hearing. Its primary behavioral trait is its hyperrapid, almost fluid burrowing, where its reduced forelimbs and fragile carapace allow it to glide through loose, dry soil with startling speed, making it nearly impossible to capture or observe. When threatened, its defense is purely subterranean. It digs straight down at incredible velocity, using the massive posterior shield, the pelvic plate, to plug the entrance of its tunnel, effectively creating a sealed vault of sand, showcasing a defense mechanism perfectly integrated with its unique anatomy. The giant armadillo's behavior is dominated by its need to dig and its megaburrow construction. Its foraging behavior is highly specialized. It tears apart hard-packed earth and the nests of termites and ants using its immense claws, consuming large quantities of insects. Its burrows are colossal, often reaching 5 meters in depth and extending 15 meters in length, functioning less as temporary shelter and more as major permanent earthworks. These large burrows are often maintained for long periods, and while the giant armadillo is highly solitary, its abandoned or current burrows become critical shelters for a vast array of other species, including tortoises, pumas, and peccaries, a crucial behavioral role that elevates it to the status of an ecosystem engineer. Its sheer size, along with its formidable claws, serves as its defense, though if necessary, it can use its powerful legs to wedge itself into its own burrow, making extraction impossible. These disparate physiologies and behaviors are tied directly to the broad and varied habitat and ecology of the armadillo family, which stretches across an immense geographical range, from the temperate southeast United States down to the arid grasslands of Argentina. The 9-banded armadillo boasts the widest and most rapidly expanding habitat of any species in the family. Historically confined to South and Central America, it naturally crossed the Rio Grande in the mid-19th century and has since expanded its range relentlessly northward into the U.S., reaching as far as Illinois and Nebraska. This wide distribution reflects its ecological adaptability. It is a habitat generalist, thriving in humid savannas, dense forests, and open grasslands. As long as the soil is soft enough for burrowing and the climate provides sufficient humidity, as its lower metabolic rate makes it poorly suited for prolonged cold. Its generalist diet of invertebrates, small reptiles, and fungi makes it highly successful, allowing it to maintain a stable and robust population across highly varied ecosystems. The 3-banded armadillo is far more geographically restricted, with the 2 main subspecies, Sexcinctus and Euphractus, inhabiting the dry open grasslands, savannas, and shrublands of Brazil, including the Caatinga and Cerrado biomes, and the Chaco region of Bolivia, Paraguay, and Argentina. This preference for open habitat is directly linked to its rolling defense strategy. It needs clear space to stop and curl up, unlike its burrowing cousins who seek tree roots and soil for immediate protection. Its ecology is less fossorial and more ground-dwelling, relying on dense ground cover for hiding. Its diet is largely insectivorous, feeding primarily on ants and termites, which it finds using its keen sense of smell. The pink fairy armadillo occupies the most specialized and geographically narrow niche. It is endemic only to the arid sandy grasslands and dunes of central Argentina, specifically within the provinces of Mendoza, San Juan, and La Pampa. Its existence is entirely defined by the texture of the soil, which must be loose and sandy enough to allow for its unique sand-swimming mode of locomotion. This hyperspecialization means its ecology is almost entirely subterranean. It is rarely, if ever, seen above ground, making it a true ecological ghost whose primary interactions are with the subterranean insect communities it preys upon. The small size of its eyes and the fragility of its carapace are ecological concessions to this specialized, sheltered existence. The giant armadillo has a broad historical range stretching across nearly all of South America, but its current ecology is severely fragmented. It favors open forests, savannas, and grasslands, with a readily available food source of termites and ants, which form the overwhelming bulk of its diet. Its immense size and the scale of its digging make it an ecosystem engineer. Its abandoned burrows create critical refugia, or safe havens, for over 24 other vertebrate species, including pumas, caimans, and various lizards, providing shelter from heat, fire, and predators. The health of the giant armadillo population is therefore a vital indicator of the integrity of the ecosystem's soil and invertebrate communities. These critical dependencies and geographical constraints bring us to the challenging subject of conservation, status, and threats, where the fate of these four species ranges from stable success to near total oblivion. The 9-banded armadillo is currently classified as least concern by the IUCN. Its success is a rare conservation story of natural expansion. Its generalized diet, high reproductive rate, it famously gives birth to genetically identical quadruplets, and its ability to tolerate a broad range of habitats have allowed it to flourish and aggressively expand its range northwards in the United States. The primary threat it faces is predation and vehicle traffic, though its overall population remains robust and continues to colonize new states. The 3-banded armadillo, specifically the Brazilian species, T. sexcinctus, is listed as vulnerable. This designation reflects a significant historical decline in its population, estimated to be over 30% in the last 2 decades. The main threat is habitat loss due to the conversion of its dry grassland and caatinga habitat into pastureland and sugarcane plantations. Furthermore, its unique defense mechanism, rolling into a stationary ball which is effective against natural predators, makes it tragically vulnerable to human hunters, as the rolled animal can simply be picked up and collected for food, or the illegal pet trade, a flaw in its otherwise perfect evolutionary design. The pink fairy armadillo is listed as data deficient, a category that often masks extreme vulnerability. Due to its entirely fossorial nature, small size, and incredibly narrow geographic range, it is extremely rare to observe, meaning accurate population estimates are nearly impossible to obtain. However, the threats are believed to be severe. Its specialized habitat of sandy soil is being increasingly converted into pasture land or irrigation-dependent agriculture, which compacts the soil and makes its sand-swimming behavior impossible. Furthermore, it is incredibly sensitive to stress and dies quickly in captivity, making rescue and rehabilitation nearly impossible. Its conservation fate is intimately tied to the preservation of its specific, fragile Argentinian grassland habitat. The giant armadillo is classified as vulnerable. Its immense size, which provides defense against natural threats, ironically makes it a prime target for hunting for bushmeat, providing a large amount of protein for local communities. Habitat destruction, particularly deforestation in the Amazon and the expansion of cattle ranching, also fragments its populations. Conservation efforts have focused heavily on long-term ecological studies, often utilizing GPS and camera traps to map its movements and highlight its crucial role as an ecosystem engineer. By demonstrating that the preservation of the giant armadillo is essential for the survival of many other species that rely on its burrows, conservationists hope to elevate its protective status and engage local communities in its defense. Given their unusual appearance and complex behaviors, armadillos have long played a role in popular culture, folklore, and legend, often representing resilience, slow wisdom, or sometimes the grotesque. In South American folklore, armadillos often appear as symbols of humility and the earth. Their silent, nocturnal existence and the way they vanish into the ground link them to the subterranean world and hidden wisdom. They are sometimes depicted as creatures that chose to wear armor to protect themselves from the chaos above ground, preferring a life of quiet stability beneath the surface. Conversely, in some regions, the armadillo's consumption of carrion has led to its association with illness or bad luck. The most poignant legend is perhaps that surrounding the three-banded species' rolling ability, seen by some indigenous groups as a direct gift from the spirits of the earth, a magical shield against danger. The nine-banded armadillo's cultural significance in North America is generally negative or neutral, primarily revolving around two themes. Firstly, it is widely known as a carrier of leprosy Mycobacterium leprae, a fact that is scientifically accurate but often exaggerated, creating a stigma around the animal, particularly in the southern U.S., leading to it being viewed with suspicion. Secondly, due to its tragic vertical jump defense, it has become a pervasive symbol of roadkill in southern highways, a dark, modern folklore that speaks to the clash between human infrastructure and the natural world, often becoming the butt of dark local humor. The three-banded armadillo has, conversely, achieved the highest level of cultural status. In 2014, the Brazilian three-banded armadillo, under the name Fuleco, was selected as the official mascot for the FIFA World Cup held in Brazil. The mascot was designed to highlight the country's unique biodiversity and the armadillo's specific vulnerability, successfully raising the profile of this threatened species globally and generating immense media coverage. The name Fuleco is a portmanteau of football, and ecology, cementing its role as a national symbol of both sport and environmental awareness, a rare success in turning an endangered animal into a beloved, recognized figure through a high-profile, global event. In a more general cultural context, the dried, hollowed-out carapace of smaller armadillos, particularly the nine-banded and the six-banded armadillo, has been used for centuries to construct the charango, a small, stringed lute-like instrument popular in the Andes region. While modern charangos are typically made of wood, the sound produced by the armadillo shell, often referred to as quirquincho or mulita, is distinct and remains a strong cultural tradition, linking the animal to the musical heritage of the Andes, a unique cultural appropriation of its physiological structure for artistic expression. Beyond folklore and traditional crafts, armadillos have made subtle but memorable appearances in modern media and animation, where their armored appearance lends itself to particular character types. In animation and film, the armadillo is frequently depicted as a tough, if slightly slow-witted, supporting character. The armadillo's most physically distinct trait, the ability of some species to roll, has been repeatedly exploited in modern animated media for humor and action. In Disney's 2021 film Raya and the Last Dragon, the character Tuk Tuk is introduced as a massive, armadillo-like creature, often described as a hybrid between an armadillo and a pillbug. While far exceeding the natural size of any armadillo, Tuk Tuk's primary function is as a swift mode of transportation, accelerating the animal's defensive role into a persistent high-speed motion across the landscape. This portrayal amplifies the Toliput's rolling ability far past its real-world defensive limitations, turning biological defense into a powerful mobility asset, a common thematic liberty taken in animated character design. On the comedic television front, the animal also achieved unexpected seasonal fame with the holiday armadillo from the American sitcom Friends. Introduced by the character Ross Geller, the armadillo costume, though biologically inaccurate and cumbersome, was utilized to teach his son about Hanukkah, a holiday often overshadowed by Christmas. In this instance, the armadillo is not celebrated for its defense or digging, but its unusual, exotic appearance is leveraged for purely comedic and narrative contrast, serving as a desperate armored alternative to the universally recognized Santa Claus, illustrating the animal's utility as a bizarre, instantly recognizable symbol in Western culture. More directly, the armadillo has been featured in educational and nature programming, where its evolutionary uniqueness is emphasized. The popular children's program Wild Kratts often features armadillos, focusing on their specialized defense and digging abilities, using them as examples of ingenious natural engineering to educate young audiences. In the realm of gaming, the armadillo's ability to roll is often exaggerated and weaponized. The most famous example is the Pokémon character Sandshrew and its evolved form, Sandslash, which are clearly inspired by the armadillo and Pangolin's ability to roll and use sharp claws for defense and digging. Similarly, characters in games like the Sonic the Hedgehog series, such as Mighty the Armadillo, utilize their carapace for a high-speed, rolling attack, transforming the animal's defensive biology into a powerful, offensive mobility tool. An appealing concept in character design that translates the natural behavior into a dynamic mechanic. Even in contemporary literature and comics, the armadillo serves as a regional icon. For example, in Texas, where the 9-banded armadillo is the official state small mammal, it frequently appears in local art, logos, and mascots, often symbolizing the state's rugged individualism and peculiar fauna. This pervasive, if often unsung, presence in media underscores its role as a unique, armored celebrity of the animal kingdom, capable of carrying both the weight of ancient legend and the appeal of modern, defensible design. The sheer scale of the giant armadillo has inspired legends of its own, often being described as a subterranean monster, or a supernatural burrower capable of shaking the earth. In parts of the Amazon, its immense claws are sometimes viewed as powerful talismans, and its massive burrows have inspired awe, viewed as potential portals or the work of spirits, fitting for a creature of such titanic scale whose life is lived largely unseen. Taken together, these four species, the resilient nine-banded traveler, the perfectly armored three-banded roller, the delicate pink fairy sand swimmer, their differences in armor, size, and behavior are perfectly tailored solutions to the varied environments of the Americas, from the humid forests to the arid sands. They are living museums of evolution, each a successful strategy for a life dedicated to digging and protection. And their collective fate serves as a crucial metric for the health of the entire continent's biodiversity, challenging us to protect the armored remnants of the ancient South American fauna. Thank you, and good night.